So back on the S1000R. We got a couple of things to talk about tonight. I'm out on a ride right now in a random area full of traffic because you think I'd be working on my commute back. It's not the case. The case is that I should be off work right now, but the day is still busy. And when it comes to either not riding or riding in traffic at night, I choose riding on traffic at night. See, I got a couple things to talk about. One of them was gloves for the track. It's going to be a pretty quick topic, so I don't want to bore you guys, but just to let you know, one thing I've noticed immediately, just tonight, was, let me stop back a little bit further. I'm not someone who goes to the track, you know, every month, 4 times a year, 5 times a year. So, you know, I don't need like excessive equipment. I'm not racing other people, clearly. I'm a novice. And this bike's got a lot of motor to it, and really I'm on the track so I can use it and enjoy it, and it's just a lot of fun. Just at a really pure basic level. And I'm saying this because, you know, this is about gear and gloves in particular. I had some gloves, they're Dainese gloves, and they're kind of, you know, gloves in the borderline between a glove that is appropriate for a track and not. At least according to, you know, people that supposedly know what they're talking about. And, you know, I thought they were adequate, but they lack some protection, especially in the ulnar area and some of the padding in the back of the hand. If I did take a pretty nasty spill, I could see where I could have done better. And, you know, so that was kind of bothering me the last couple times I was at the track. And like many of you, the more safe you feel with your gear, the more comfortable and confident you feel while you're riding. It's because, you know, in case of the worst case scenario, you've done everything you can, and you've bought yourself a little more protection at least. So I wound up looking for gloves online, and, you know, the prices of these things can be ridiculous. A lot of gloves between, you know, the 200 mark and the higher 200s, the Dainese, like Druid, in that realm kind of gloves. You know, they're good gloves and probably would fill the role pretty well. Still, I mean, that's a lot of money for a pair of gloves, right? And then I found out that the Dainese full metal gloves, you know, the ones that are at the top of their range, I think they just came out with a new version. And so the version that's been out for the past few years is now outdated and on sale. It's somewhere around the mid-200s. And so I picked up a pair of these. So you're getting to these gloves. You know, I'm wearing them on the bike right now, which is ridiculous. I'm just on the street, and they're huge overkill for the street, in my opinion. But the reason I'm wearing them is because they felt pretty stiff when I took them out of the box, and I don't want to put these on the first day at the track and have them feel stiff, and so I can't really ride appropriately. And I'm also having splitting right now because my hands feel so weird. I'm having a hard time modulating the throttle. These things are still so stiff, so keep this in mind. I don't know if all these, you know, higher-end race gloves, obviously the more protection, the thicker things are going to be, and to make some attempt to give you feel and give you different types of leather so that the grip and your tactile sensation is still somewhat intact. But I can say with these full metals, I hope they break it a lot more, because I'm having a hard time being delicate with the throttle. Even gripping it appropriately, I think it's almost too small. The grips are too small now because the glove feels so clumsy. So I'm glad I'm on the street in this slow traffic. At this point, I mean, I was going to go for a little ride, but I'm probably going to go on a couple more rides with them. See if I can break them in a little bit, or at least get used to them. There's two ways of looking at things. You know, in buying cars too, a lot of people will say, like, oh, if I get an accident, this big old Chevy SUV is going to keep me safer because of its weight. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is, well, if you can avoid the accident in the first place, you don't need so much steel around you. And I think the same concept can be used to think about gloves or any sort of wear, you know, safety gear to some extent. I mean, you could make an argument that if your feel isn't that good, then aren't you more prone to screw up and be clumsy and go down? I think the answer is yes. So maybe once these things break in, the difference isn't that major between a big old thick glove like this and something that's more moderate. The other thing I wanted to talk about are tires, because this S1000R, at least mine, came with the Pirelli Diablo Rosso Corsas. And loved the tire, but they burned out pretty quick. You get a few thousand miles out of them and then they start getting bald on you. But it's more about the wear and the traction balance, because you hate replacing your tires every few thousand miles. It's a very short interval, and it's not so much the cost, it's just a hassle. So what I did was, actually it wasn't on purpose, but they didn't have any of these tires in stock when I needed them for one of my track visits. So they had some Dunlop Q3s. I heard some good things about Dunlop Q3s, so I put them on. And those tires lasted me longer than I thought they would. I think they probably lasted me a good 5,000 miles or so. Could you guys get any tighter here? Which is, much more than the Diablo Rosso Corsas lasted me. So that's the two tires I experienced in this bike. And the first thing I noticed on those Q3s was that they felt a little stiffer. I didn't have the feel on the road. The sidewall is known to be stiff. I mean, I think they have carbon fiber in there to some degree, and I got used to the feel on the Diablo Rosso Corsas, and it gave me a comfort level. I also felt like the absolute grip is a bit different as well, but I was still adapting to this bike and this size of bike, so it's really hard to say. I can't say definitively that I'm not going anywhere and I'm stuck in traffic and this completely sucks, and welcome to California. There's a lot of angst amongst these people. And everyone wants to get home so they can have their spam sandwiches. Alright, how to get out of that mess. So the difference I noticed, I can feel it on the road immediately when I changed the tires. I had an immediate difference. Even the undulations in the highway, I talked about that a few videos ago. I could feel it on the road. And that does add to some confidence, because everything's traction. Traction and how much traction you have and how confident you are on your traction, it really dictates how you ride and how you feel when you ride. And there's a difference, whether or not it's enough for me to change tires on the road. I don't think so. I'll take the longer wear of the Dunlop Q3s. So I was up at Autoclub Speedway a couple weeks ago, and the last time I was there, I think my lap times are somewhere in the 2-minute 4-second, 2-minute 5-second range. And I was looking at my times because they still had them posted from last time I was there. I had one track day in the middle, out at Chuckwalla, and that was on a pretty cold day, at least for California standards. And it was it was windy. It was a decent amount of sand on the track. But I'm trying to say that day wasn't the biggest educational day for me, and that's the only difference in terms of experience. So I don't want you to think that I rode Autoclub and then I had a bunch of other track days, more experience, and then I rode it again on different tires and I had different times because of experience. There wasn't a lot more experience, especially regarding the track. My times dropped by 5 seconds on average, so I think that's pretty significant. Getting to under 2-minute mark pretty regularly. And it wasn't just the times themselves, because the times are equal, but you feel more comfortable. To me, that's significant as well, because that just gives you more room to try to squeeze out more performance, and you can take a little more risk if you feel more secure. But what I felt on the bike was, not so much accelerating in a straight line. I can't say when the bike was tipped over, I was accelerating out of a corner and the bike was still out of lean, but I was trying to dig in a little earlier. That made a difference in my confidence. I felt more confident in these tires than I did in the Dunlop Q3s. And I especially felt more confident when the bike leaned over to a more significant degree. The Q3s, they just seem to take a lot more abuse. And but considering the difference I feel in traction, especially at lean, and also the feedback at lean were superior on the Pirellis. I gotta find something in between, and I hope that's the Diablo Rosso 3. I hope that gives me a little more miles, but gives me more of the feel that the Diablo Rosso Corsa has. That'd be great. So the tire drama continues. I'm trying to split more responsibly. I got a baby daughter, and you gotta grow up, right? Man, when I first got this bike, oh, demon baby. All I can say is I didn't record the worst of it at all, but it was an intoxicating feeling and not at all safe. Lucky to still be here. I have a buddy of mine that's starting to ride bikes now too, and he keeps bringing up the falling aspect because that's all you hear about, or what you're paying attention to when you're thinking about getting on the streets on a motorcycle. And what I told him was, if you're this concerned about it, you're less apt to fall. And it's true, because you're less apt to lose attention, and to be honest, you should be more sensitive to that, and the more scared you are, the less apt you are to fall. You just hope that it's not to the point where you can't actually enjoy the ride, because that's when it's not worth it. You can't enjoy it, then there's no point. So it's a fine line there. Thanks, man. Thank you. It's kind of you. A little like that. People try to do the right thing for you when you're on a bike around here in San Diego, so hats off to the public in general for tolerating us motorcycles that buzz by them at 100 miles an hour.